do? You're gonna find a landlord and force them to be poor, and then when they become poor, then go and find another rich person and steal off them to give to that landlord, and then they become poor, and just make everybody poor? Hey, what's up? My name's Samuel Leeds, and I want to talk about what's happening right now within property and the government. There was a big announcement yesterday, which, to be honest, I'm not really that happy about, and neither should you be as a property investor or as a landlord or as someone that wants to get into property. And I'm going to give you the facts about what's happened. I'm going to inform you, and then I'm going to talk about what we need to do as landlords to stand against this, because I'm getting very, very frustrated with the government actually right now, who are supposed to be supporting businesses, who are supposed to be wanting to see the economy get picked back up. So this video is very likely going to get seen by the government. It will be probably seen by people in high places. And, believe it or not, you can petition and you can protest, but actually it's videos like this, and it's people like me speaking up and saying, hello, this is what's happening, and this is how I feel about it as a property investor and landlord. And actually I train tens of thousands of property investors and landlords, and this is how we feel collectively about it. So if you're watching this video, please do listen, be informed. You need to know what's going on. And also, if you agree with me, please comment below and let me know why and let me know your thoughts. Now, that's not for me. That's not for me just to be able to go, oh, look, lots of people agree with me. Isn't it great? That's because the more people that comment on this video and say, I agree, this is outrageous, this needs to stop, Boris, hello, do something. The more people stand up and speak up on this video, it means that when people see it, they'll see the comments and they'll think, ooh, maybe there's actually a lot of people. So this is, in its own way, this is a protest. This is a protest. So please comment below if you agree with me. But first, let me tell you what's happened. So yesterday, they announced that they were going to ban tenant evictions for another 4 weeks. Now, just to put this into perspective, for all throughout this whole pandemic lockdown situation, we have not been able to evict tenants. So if a tenant is not paying their rent, you can't evict them. Which, to be honest, I kind of understood for a little while at first. I thought, fair enough, everyone was really shook up, they didn't know what was happening. But now, this is getting beyond a little bit of a joke. Because landlords, just because you own properties or own a property, it doesn't mean that you're rich. It doesn't mean that you're able to just accept not receiving rent. Now, some landlords might be rich, but if they're not receiving rent, then they'll very quickly be poor and the houses are going to go repossessed, and then suddenly no tenants are going to have anywhere to live. So just saying you cannot ban a tenant, so you cannot evict a tenant, I just don't think is good enough. Now, listen, maybe you might want to say under certain circumstances and you might stricten the eviction rules. I understand that. But government, that is not what you have done. What you've done is you've banned evictions altogether. So if I've got a tenant living in a house, they could be a young bachelor renting a £10,000 per month mansion, throwing parties, deliberately not paying rent because they know that they can't be evicted. And guess what? As a landlord, there's nothing you can do. Now, listen, if you're a tenant watching this, please don't think that you can get away with that, because you can't, because eventually it will catch up with you. And when this little holiday period of paying rent is over, you'll be evicted and you'll be dealt with. Also, if any of my tenants are watching this, and I know some of my tenants do watch my videos, I just want to say pretty much every single one of my tenants is paying their rent right now in full. And there's a couple of people whereby they've had very extreme circumstances where we've reduced their rent, and I am working with them. But I don't think, and thank you, by the way, my tenants, for being a good human being. And I believe in just being a good human being. And why don't you, government, rather than forcing landlords to not be able to get rent, why don't you just rely on a little bit of goodwill? Because every situation is different. Some landlords are on the breadline. If you've got 10 houses and each house is making you £100 a month, that's £1,000 a month. That's your salary. You have some of your tenants not paying their rent, you've still got to pay the mortgage. And mortgage holiday, by the way, is not really a thing, because you have a mortgage holiday, you're still going to have to pay that back at some point. And what's happening, the government are giving out bounce back loans and stuff, trying to make these amateur landlords reliant and dependent on the government, because as soon as you're dependent on the government have complete control. And I am so anti what is happening right now. I mean, how about just looking at the situation? What about if the tenant isn't affected by the virus at all? They're just using it as an excuse. Now, I get it. Sometimes it's a genuine reason, but I think we need to look at things on a case by case. That's my opinion. Let me know your thoughts. Comment below. I need to know your thoughts. As I say, people are going to be watching this video. They're going to be looking at the gist of the comments. So please do comment. This is our petition right now. Shelter are jumping on the bandwagon, who say they help the homeless. Shelter, come on, get real. I've been on the receiving end of Shelter that help the homeless. And actually what Shelter often do is they just help tenants legally not pay rent. That's not helping the homeless. I think it's immoral. I think it's unethical. So honestly, listen, if you're all pro tenants having free rent right now, then how about people having free food right now? How about we just go to Sainsbury's and we just take food, and we just go to Waitrose and we just take whatever, regardless of how expensive it is? What about we just go and get mobile phones? We just take them from Car Phone Warehouse and we just start getting free stuff. Of course, what would happen is that would cause absolute havoc, mayhem, and it would ruin the economy. So why pick on landlords and say, oh, well, they're rich and they can just let tenants pay rent free? No, it needs to stop. Also, another annoying piece of news is that now when you evict a tenant, you have to give 6 months notice. And this is after the eviction ban has finished up until at least March the 31st of 2021. And this is something that I don't like. It's all this at least this date. And then we're going to just extend it again. I really feel we just need to know where we stand, what is happening, what is going on. And another reason this is so annoying right now is because rents are really going up. Certainly in the areas that I'm buying properties, and there's a massive lineup for people wanting properties, but instead the properties are just taken up by people just who don't want to pay rent. Come on, it's not fair. So what do I think should happen? What do I think is fair? I think firstly it would be fair to look at things on a case by case, but I think also it would be fair to say at the end of this 4 weeks, how about we just say, right, we'll extend it for 4 weeks, but then that's it. We don't want another extension of the eviction ban. And then you're saying March the 31st, until at least that date, you're going to have to give 6 months notice. Why not just say, actually, you know what? March 31st, then we're good again. Stop messing us around. Stop messing around and playing games. This is serious because there's a lot of landlords that are on the breadline. And then what's going to happen? When the landlords start losing their houses, losing their money, are you going to then pay their rent, government? Are you going to then start helping them out? And what are you going to do? You're going to find a landlord and force them to be poor, and then when they become poor, then go and find another rich person and steal off them to give to that landlord, and then they become poor and just make everybody poor? I just think that's a messed up, warped system. I actually think the opposite should be happening. We should be creating opportunities to help the poor become wealthy, not by taking off of the rich. It's really got to stop. Again, please comment as part of your petition if you agree with me and if you think really things need to change and they need to change now. Now, I'm an optimist. I always like to draw positives out of a negative situation. So I guess the positives are, for one, it's good because this is going to put off a lot of landlords and investors, which means that there'll be more deals for the serious people and for the people that are going to be creative. There's always creative ways to get around this. I mean, for a start, one of the things that I'm doing and one of the things that I teach actively to most of my students is serviced accommodation, where you get a lot more rent, but also none of these nonsense rules apply when you're renting out a property as serviced accommodation. Short stay lets, higher rent, this doesn't apply. So listen, if you're buying a property right now and you're worried about putting a tenant in case they don't pay the rent and you can't get them out, maybe consider using serviced accommodation. If you can't, and if you've got current problems where you've got tenants and it's difficult, what I would say is a little piece of advice from experience is pick up the phone and speak to your tenants. Relationship is key. Most people are good people. I say there's only 5 bad tenants in the world. They just move around from house to house a lot. When you get, I don't want to create an us versus them, a landlord versus tenant, because I love my tenants and they're my customers and they pay me and that's what enables me to have the lifestyle that I have. So I really don't want to create this us versus them thing. It's not landlord versus tenant at all. It's the people versus this terrible, messed up system that needs to change. So do something, needs to change. This is my voice. This is my petition. This is my protest. Please comment below. They will watch this. I know, because sometimes the bigger corporations get my videos taken down sometimes, which means that at least they watch it. So comment, and let's see some change.